Those never get quorum, do they?
All right, we have a quorum present, and so I'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
John Law. Matt is, John Law.
He's not on.
He's not on.
He was supposed to be on it.
Correct.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November 16th. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
It's a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes unanimously approved. Participation, we have 4 people who had requested to speak to the board today. Angie Hayden, Susan DeBose, Hannah Reese, and Matthew Lane. And we're going to allow that for 3 minutes. We do not want to get into any discussion on the administrative code changes because that is being published tomorrow for public comment that will run through, I believe, April 29th, and then there's a hearing that anyone is welcome to attend and speak at that time on April 30th. But the first item, we might introduce ourselves. I recognize a number of people having been here before, but there's some who have not. So if we could, I'm Ron Snyder.
Angela Stokes.
I'm Ben Auburn. I'm an assistant attorney general for the state, and I represent.
Michelle Hughes. Nancy Hack, Director of APLS.
Denise Carr, Deputy Secretary.
All right, so we may begin back there next to the screen with you, sir. If you would identify yourself.
Oh, I'm Craig Bonner. I'm the Board of the 1819 News.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Alexander Willis with Alabama Daily News.
John Stevenson, reporter with the Alabama Reflector.
Hi, I'm Erin Davis. I'm with WSFA.
Dallas Vallejo, former director of the Mobile Public Library.
I'm Willisha Morris. I'm with AL.com.
I'm Representative Susie DeBose, District 45, Shelby County, Jefferson County.
Carol Mosley, League of Women Voters, and the Alabama Channel.
Lori Herring, Eagle Forum of Alabama.
Esther Williams, and yes, I do swim. I'm retired, if you don't know that, you're just young. So. I'm a retired educator and a licensed professional counselor of private practice from Auburn.
Elizabeth Williams, Esther's daughter. I am the Baldwin County chapter organizer for Read Freely, Alabama.
I'm Christine Seaside. I'm Esther's friend, a concerned citizen from Alabama, former teacher and pharmacist. I'm Mary Weidler from Montgomery, and I'm a big-time user of the public library.
I'm Suzanne LaRosa. I'm a co-founder of a book publishing company here in Montgomery, South Books, and the owner of an indie bookstore, our only bookstore here in Montgomery.
I'm Amber Fry. I'm here with Read Freely, Alabama.
Jody Womack, former librarian.
I'm Travis Jackson, Black Lives Matter grassroots organizer for both Birmingham and Montgomery, and I'm also an Iraq veteran, and I'm also here to support Read Freely Alabama.
I'm Jessica Hayes. I'm a librarian for 15 years, started off in public libraries, and I'm here with the Alabama Library Association's Advocacy Committee.
I'm Christy Schallenberger. I'm one of the co-organizers of the Coleman chapter of Read Freely, Alabama, and a longtime lover of libraries, and I hate censorship.
Hi, I'm Angie Hayden, Prattville resident, mother, library patron, founding member of Read Freely, and spokesperson for Read Freely. Thank you for having us.
I'm Maddie Smith, and I am a concerned citizen and a lover of libraries.
I'm Michael Martin, retired Air Force Master Sergeant and retired engineer, and also a concerned citizen from Huntsville.
Jacob Holmes, the Alabama Pro Corps Reporter.
Matthew Lane, president of the Alabama Library Association and live in Mountain Brook.
Amy Minton, I'm an avid reader from Rainbow City, Alabama.
Hannah Reese, I'm the Queen of Alabama, and I love libraries and being a mom, and
Liz Campbell, I'm a veteran and retired nurse, and I'm with Read Freely.
Hi, I'm Tabitha Eisner, Vice Chair of the Alabama Democratic Party.
I'm Kelly Rowland, I'm the Assistant Director here at AQLS.
I'm Ryan Godfrey, I'm Communications Director here at AQLS.
Jessica Avery, I'm the other Assistant Director here.
I'm Jennifer Holman, Finance with APLS.
Maddie Beer Temple, CBS 42 News.
All right. Well, we are glad you could all be with us today, and we appreciate everyone's great interest and hopefully our common goal of promoting libraries. And the first item on the agenda is I was reporting that Virginia Doyle's appointment ended on November 21st of this year. Virginia was a longtime board member who was a passionate advocate for libraries, and I think it's we had a resolution, I think, recognizing Virginia's service to the libraries of Alabama for, and on this board for probably approximately 25 years. That resolution, I think, is further down the agenda, but I think we should go ahead and it was provided to the board members. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution honoring Virginia?
Second.
All in favor? The next item, unfinished business, was the status of the opinion from the Attorney General's office that was requested a while back. And this morning, I guess at 8 o'clock, we received an email with that opinion. We've not had a chance to study the opinion yet. We will do so and get sure discuss it at the next board meeting. The next item was I think I've gotten off of my agenda. I think I apologize. I needed to go back to participation, and why don't we do that, and then we will take that up the agenda. The first one is Angie Hayden from Reed Freely, Alabama. And as we've said in the past, and some of you, is that we asked everyone to keep their comments to 3 minutes.
Good morning. Since we've already introduced ourselves, I'll just get right to it. It concerned us at Read Freely when a member of your board pushed a list as a way of handling complaints from extremist groups Moms for Liberty and Clean Up Alabama about books they find problematic. As we have watched time and time again, as these groups have targeted LGBTQ content and what they call divisive content, materials for removal, not relocation, as they like to claim, and we have the actual challenge forms to show that. As well as books that discuss complicated history and important topics like race and age-appropriate sex education material, this is problematic. Concerned parties of every political affiliation were alarmed at the idea of a blacklist collected by the state government, and yet the plan was approved and implemented. Now parties from both sides have insisted this list be made public, and we see that it contains 82 books so far. ranging from stories about red crayons and blue wrappers, Amish romances, books about divorce, the Left Behind series from the young adult section, and Christian nonfiction books covering sex education, pregnancy, and gender identity. All of this with an estimated price tag of potentially tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars, making this very expensive experiment to prove that parents have very subjective opinions when it comes to what is appropriate material for their own children. Not only are we troubled by this move toward authoritarian governance, we are incredibly concerned by the absence of forethought and good stewardship. We understand that the board has found itself in a difficult position with these groups. And we also know that you have found yourselves in the position of feeling as though you must either accommodate these assaults on our rights or face the threat of potential loss of critical funding to Alabama libraries. But we ask what this list was really meant to accomplish. What was the end goal of the state collecting a list of targeted books? And how was that meant to affect the duties of library staff who are already trained to understand their collections? We struggle to see how creating such a list could be meant to do anything but create a state-sponsored blacklist of books based on the personal ideology of Moms for Liberty and Clean Up Alabama extremists. Only it did not even do that very well. What it did instead was demonstrate that inappropriate is a dangerously subjective word, open to wide interpretation and prone to being misused for ideological and political purposes. However, Read Freely believes that all of the books on the blacklist belong in the library, including those for religious minorities, such as those Amish romances. These belief systems may not be mainstream, but they deserve representation in a taxpayer-funded public forum, as we all do. How will Alabama raise its profile nationally, politically, and culturally if we continue to present this ignorant image to the rest of the country that we accept extremism and discrimination of Americans, and are willing to censor libraries to achieve that? Alabama will become a bellwether for government overreach and censorship if we continue this path, and it's not a winning strategy. However, Read Freely has been really encouraged to see so many Alabama families from across the political spectrum join us in rejecting these attacks, as you can see by all the beautiful yellow stickers in the room. Because as it turns out, most Alabama parents have no interest in co-parenting with Moms for Liberty or Clean Up Alabama. As we move through this year, we hope that you will take the lessons learned from this failed experiment and adjust course to a more rational and equitable way of leading our state library system, remembering the importance of a wide variety of viewpoints, representation, and the freedom of Alabama families to exercise their right to choose what to read in our public libraries. Thank you.
Thank y'all for having me today. Again, I'm Representative Susan DeVos, and I'm from the Hoover area, Shelby County and Jefferson County. We are 1 week away from starting our 2024 legislative session, and I just wanted to follow up on some items that Dr. Packard committed to back in her October 18th letter to Governor Ivey. I want to first of all thank her for agreeing to go along with recommendations that are very sensible and reasonable. And I hope you all have read them, because they're not going to limit what you're able to do as a parent. But it does help you be a parent and make good selections for your child. But the first thing I want to mention, that I'm not sure the status of this, is that you said in your letter you were going to draft a letter to the American Library Association urging the impeachment of Emily Dobrinsky as president of the organization and detail the adverse impact her comments have made on Alabama's public library. Secondly, you were going to not renew organization membership of the APLS board with the American Library Association. You have heard from myself and chairs of our education budgets and many legislators that ask for APLS to totally disaffiliate from the American Library Association, or state funds could be jeopardized. I'm not sure the status of that. Also, board approval of the recommended changes to the APLS State Aid Administrative Code as detailed by Governor Ivey. Following the Administrative Code Chapter 520-2-2 is required in order for our public libraries to qualify for state aid. These recommended guideline changes make libraries more conducive to parental and child-friendly environments. Your non-compliance with approving the guideline changes are directly affecting our local libraries' ability to secure state funding. I'm concerned about the timing here. I don't know when this process is going to finish and if libraries are going to have time to submit their changes in guidelines in order to qualify for funds. Local libraries must submit to the library service their written policies covering compliance and the items in administrative code in order to receive state funding. The code changes that need to be added include a policy for physical location and relocation of sexually explicit or other material deemed inappropriate for children and youth, advance approval of materials recommended, displayed, or otherwise actively promoted to children or youth, adding exercising discretion in the location of sexually explicit material or other material deemed by the public library board to be inappropriate for children or youth does not constitute a denial of service on the basis of age. Taking age into account when recommending, displaying, or otherwise actively promoting library materials does not constitute a denial of service on the basis of age. And then finally, any expenditure of public funds to the American Library Association must be approved by the governing board of the public library or public library system in an open public meeting following advance public notice. We all want strong, healthy public libraries in our state, and we want these recommendations that Dr. Pack has approved to move along so that our public libraries can participate in receiving their state budget funding this year. Ignoring and delaying recommendations only harms the ability of our local libraries to receive full state funding. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Reese.
Hi. So you said that we can't talk about the administrative code, right? You're just not bothered with that.
Since that's being published in the public comment and then there's going to be a public hearing, we had suggested, people had asked to speak about it. We said we thought it would be more appropriate to get their written comments and then they can speak that. So we would ask you not to speak about the administrative code because that's out for, will be out for public comments starting tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify because that was most of what
Okay.
So I would just like to echo what Susan said, that from the beginning, both the people and the legislator has been asking for a complete severing of ties with the ALA, not simply a not re-upping or renewing of the membership, but a severing of ties. And for us, that includes financial, training, advocacy, programming, certifications, all the above, not just not renewing our membership. But we also want to appreciate the steps that have been moving in that direction with Ms. Pack's statements and holding her accountable to that and when that will come to fruition, and also with the administrative code. And so we want to thank you for those steps in that direction, and we look forward to seeing how it all unfolds in the future. Thanks.
All right. We appreciate everybody's comments and concerns.
Well, normally we get kicked out of this point. Okay, sorry. I was going to be in Grand Rush if that were the case.
I don't think we had approved it.
You did.
Yeah, you said that.
You did.
Okay, all right.
All right. So, as I said, I'm Matt Lane, president of the Alabama Library Association, Alabama's chapter of the American Library Association. It's been my honor to serve as a public librarian for almost 20 years now. During my tenure among books and information resources, I have resisted the idea of librarians as gatekeepers of knowledge and information. Something about that always rubbed me the wrong way. My vision of a gatekeeper was a bit medieval. I saw a gatekeeper as someone who could magnanimously introduce you to the information you sought, or capriciously close the gates upon your quest. Over the last several months, I've had to reformulate that concept. I got it all wrong. Librarians are gatekeepers of knowledge and information, not because they want to keep new and different thoughts and ideas hidden away in an old wooden box. We are gatekeepers because there are those among us who fear the very concept of new ideas. There are those here among us who wish to deny the rights of all Alabamians to freely choose what they and their families have the right to read. There are those here among us who feel that their limited vision of humanity is the only correct vision, and they wish to impose it upon all their neighbors. I proudly stand before you today as a gatekeeper of knowledge and information and ideas to say that a minority of individuals, no matter how vocal, do not have the right to choose what others read. For you too, I stand before you today to remind you of your duty and charge as members of this esteemed board and representatives of Alabama's public libraries. For you too are gatekeepers of knowledge, information, and ideas. It is your solemn duty to protect the resources of all of Alabama's great public libraries, to advocate for them, and to assist in their growth. At the last APLS meeting, I was so happy when Mrs. Doyle spoke in passionate defense of funding for Alabama's public libraries. I was shocked, however, when 3 days later, she was capriciously removed from this council by the governor's office. If we cannot engage in honest and open dialogue with one another about difficult concepts and ideas, are we truly Americans? Are we truly Alabamians? I expect more. We, as citizens of this great state, deserve better. When we silence another's voice, either in this room or out in the world, we only diminish ourselves. We need one another to grow as a society, a state, and a nation. We need you, as the Executive Council of the Alabama Public Library Service, to act as gatekeepers and champions of Alabama's public libraries. Thank you for your time, your courage, and your service.
Thank you, sir. All right, I believe that concluded the public participation. We'll go back to the agenda. I think we've already done the resolution honoring Virginia. The status of the opinion from the Attorney General that we'll review that was received this morning and have further discussion about that after the full board is seen. Y'all haven't seen it. And the administrative code updates, as I believe I was saying, that they will be published on January 31. Public comment will run until April 29th. There will be a hearing on April 30th with respect to the proposed changes. The next item on the agenda was the book list on the APLS website. We had different requests for that book list that under the Freedom of Information Act that we had granted to Mr. Taylor and Mr. Lockett. I think that list has been published in some publications. Dr. Pack, you want to give us kind of the statistics on what we've received so far with respect to that?
Well, we've received 83 titles. 23 of those were on the cleanup list in Alabama. It's just across the board. One day we've got 44 submissions. The other days we've got under 10 submissions. It's pretty much in the article what they found. Okay. If anybody's read that article, and I think it's after the publication.
And I think as you'll all recall, I think our position for this list is we're not opining one way or the other with respect to any book that is submitted on this list. It was merely intended as information for local libraries to determine if they thought their those books are in the appropriate sections of their own libraries. We are just compiling the information. The next item on the agenda has been referred to by several of our speakers. Dr. Pack wrote a letter to Emily Drabinsky, the president of the American Library Association, expressing concerns that she had, that the board had, with respect to some of the positions that had been taken by her. And in that, Dr. Pack recommended that we withdraw from the ALA. Ms. Drabinsky did not respond to Dr. Pack's letter. While we recognize that over the years we've gotten many benefits from ALA membership, particularly in terms of advocacy and programs for program development, I've concluded that membership in ALA is becoming a distraction, and that I think at our last meeting, we had indicated that we would consider whether we withdrew at our March meeting when the membership.
I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and withdraw from the ALA. Just because of this controversy, that does not mean that sometime in the future we might rethink that.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to that effect.
Are we, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we withdrawing or disappearing?
We would withdraw and not renew our membership in March when it comes to. And so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The next item on the agenda is to appoint a nominating committee to recommend the vice chair. Virginia Doyle was vice chair of the board, and I would appoint Mrs. Stokes and Mrs. Hughes to that committee to make a recommendation at our next board for the vice chair. The next item is IMLS, Grant Supporting Youth and Family. Nancy, that's back to you.
We are participating in a grant through the Institute of Museums and Library Services with the Birmingham Public Library, and it's called Reading Now, and it is to, the purpose of this grant is for communities to pinpoint a problem and for libraries to help resolve the problem. And we are working with the Birmingham Public Library to combat a rise in teen violence, and working with Birmingham Public Library with developing opportunities for enhancing activities that will draw teens into the library and keep them off the streets and the potential of getting into trouble. So most of the work is on the Birmingham Public Library, but as an agency, IMLS required us to be a partner with them, and we're very pleased to partner with IMLS on this project.
Very good.
I have a suggestion or just information. I know at University of South Alabama in Mobile, the creative writing department and the English department have gotten together with various youth groups in the inner city in Mobile and are teaching writing courses and helping these teenagers who have previously been in trouble with gangs or whatever, and processing by writing their stories and reading them aloud. And that might be something that other organizations and communities might be able to take with the universities affiliated in their areas.
Thank you. Okay. The next item, and I think we touched on this, was the challenge book list that we received, and I think the statistics I think we had on that were there have been 83 titles submitted that has been published. One of the things that we've also done is we did a survey of local libraries, how many complaints they had with respect to this. And I think that we had 84 libraries respond to the survey that was done in early January 8th, I think was the date of and it covered any complaints that had been received from April 1 to January to the end of the year. Out of that, 84 libraries responded. Only 8 libraries indicated they had any complaints with respect to any books. And of the 8 libraries that responded, 121 had complaints. 121 separate books that have been listed. And I think what that shows is there is most local libraries do not consider this to be a problem to the extent that we sometimes hear. The next item was for information purposes with respect to some legislation that's been introduced regarding local library members serving at the pleasure of appointing authorities. That's for information purposes. I don't think we have a position on that. That's for the legislature and the local governments and
So that's
local
basically
library.
clarification.
Yeah. So the next item is the financial update. Ms. Holman?
Okay, including your board packet, I have the budget as of December 31st. The top portion shows our state funds, where we're at spending, and this middle section shows where our federal and local funds are. We're at 41% obligated in our state funds and 34% with our federal and local funds. And we're on track right now. I don't really have much to say. I still have specific questions.
Dr. Pack, you want to report on your activities?
I've just been busy with going to meetings and about general information. We did have Mary Beth Wise, consultant from the Library of Congress, the National Library of Congress, Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled, visit us and get a review. Others are just general meetings with mail meetings and different things that are every month with the Alabama Virtual Library. And I went to 3 different funerals this month of January. One of them was with Mary Jolly, who was the administrative aide for Carl Elliott. And Carl Elliott is from Alabama and is known as the one and only senator, along with Lester Hill, that had got Congress to provide federal money for public libraries. And that is known as LSTA, which is now known as IMLS, Libraries and Service Institute legislation, and that was done in 1956. And Mary Jolly was very instrumental with working with legislators at that time and scheduling public hearings. The other one was one of our public library directors in Selma. Becky Nichols has been passed away, and Becky has been a steadfast librarian in Selma for over 30 years, probably 40. I'm not really sure, but you go to her funeral. And who's on this? Oh, Virginia Doyle's husband passed away shortly after she was removed from the board. And I represented the board at the funerals, letting Virginia know that we were empathetic with her needs at that time. And then I missed one funeral. Mr. Schneider, who was at the University of West Alabama and was a founder of the NAIL, Network of Alabama Academic Libraries, passed away, and he is 80 years old, and I did work with him at the University of West Alabama with the school library media program. But, so there's been a lot of leadership in Alabama that supported libraries that have passed away, so that took up a lot of January.
Well, and one that you omitted was Elbert Peters.
Oh, Elbert,
yes.
yes.
On our board for many
Yes.
years from Huntsville. Strong advocate for APLS, who we had only recently honored with a resolution that it was only last year that he went off the board.
Yeah, his 90th birthday, he had the plaque display of his 90th birthday, which is in the springtime. But yes, I did not attend his funeral. His birthday party that I attended and wraparound building. But I did talk to his son Jim and his daughter and express the board's sympathy and APLS. Okay, Gilbert. I remember
Elbert was
He was so proud of his nephew.
I know he was.
And he always loved the chocolate.
He would do that. The staff activities, Katie Bailey, did you want to discuss that?
She just returned back from IMLS has, we collect data and it's standardized data for all the public libraries in America. And she attended a conference with all the staff members who do that at other agencies, and she was telling me it was very interesting. Indiana has over 900 questions that ask all their public libraries, and there's a standard list of questions that IMLS requires, and they talk about data and how to use the data and that. And I haven't had a real chance to talk further with Katie on that, but that was paid through IMLS to send her, and they discussed the different data that we collect and how it's being used. And IMLS has it on their website for you to go in and do comparisons. Like a library the size of Selma can go in and find another library and pick up statistics and compare themselves to any library of that size across the United States. And we had our summer reading kickoff, and we had a whole, how many people did we have there? It's about 100 and great presentations. All this was presentations from our public libraries who are children's services, and had a lot of good activities for our new thing. And we will have an administrators meeting on Thursday, and we're talking about workforce development. So just a lot of activities going on here, the staff working hard and planning content for our workshops.
Was that held here?
Mm-hmm.
The Dr. Pack, the legislature again goes into session next week. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then, when will our budget be considered?
Usually, Susan may know more about this than I do, but usually the governor submits her budget about the second week that legislators start. We've already submitted our budget to the governor. It's already gone to bill pool. They never invite us to talk about our budget, but the larger agencies begin. Susan, have they started budget hearings for the larger agencies?
We're starting the 5th.
The 5th.
Yeah. And they Representative Garrett in charge of that in the House, and then Senator Al-Gore in the Senate, and it's a process. So I couldn't tell you exactly when it's going to come up, but that was one of the reasons I was really concerned about the timing of this working, so that the libraries have an opportunity to participate appropriately. And the delay in the public comment section starting, was it tomorrow? It's kind of you know, if it started back in the fall, that would help things.
Well, I think we were restricted, as I understood, in terms of when we could get on the calendar to publish. The restrictions. Legislative calendar.
What people do not realize, anytime you change the administrative code, it is like having a court hearing. It is equal to court and justice in legislative process. And the Legislative Services Agency of Alabama has total control over the dates and publication of it. And they guideline how we handle or when we submit it and that. But
So when did you request that publicly? When did you submit that?
we submitted it for the January 8th, we submitted it January the 19th. And that was the earliest publication date that we could get. The November publication date had passed. And it goes back, if you read the act of the administrative code, it can the board's decision or any legislative act of decision can be changed and it can go in front of a court. So this is not anything to be taken lightly. It is the procedural it is court hearing. The rulemaking under the administrative code is on the web page, and legislative oversight is the one, they handle everything and in the process. And there is the act in
But I think the bottom line is that it was approved by the board on November 16th. Remember that board meeting. And as I understand, this is the first publication date. So it's been submitted for a while. They put it out for publication. So that's why it's running the time period.
And they very clearly state in the code, when they set this up, that each agency has to consider everything that is submitted, the pros and the cons, and before adopting a final rule, the agency must consider fully all written and oral submissions respecting the proposed rule. And normally they have it out for 45 days to 90 days.
Because this is quite involved, uncertainties, unintended consequences, benefits, and versus one's demographic or the other.
Mm-hmm. It's a very serious involved process, which APLS has never really had anybody attend any hearings in the past. And every 5 years, every agency that is a government agency is to look at their admin code and to see if there needs to be changes.
So y'all chose to go with the 90-day response period rather than 45. Was that an option you had?
It's just what the board said to do. But I mean, but in order to get it out, get it published, and for people to work, to comment on it, it's gonna take that long. Because it says in here that you're to notify all the stakeholders. And I can give you a copy of this in the act if you want to go back and read it, but it is a legislative act, and with the governor saying adopt it immediately, I'm not criticizing the governor, but I think that she may have forgotten the processes that you have to go through.
Well, I think we adopted it at our November 16th meeting, and it's out for comments. So, because I'm sure that's the way it was to do it. Because I think there is witness these meetings that we have for a number of weeks. There's going to be, I'm sure, a lot of comment, pro and con with respect to that. And I suspect a lot of people are going to speak at the public hearing. So I think the view was that we need to give appropriate time so that we, at least from an agency standpoint, we would have have been careful and deliberate in this. And, if there are later attacks on whatever is adopted, one way or the other, that we'd be in a better position for folks to be that way. One last item I was going to bring up, and I'm not sure who gave me today this listing of bomb threats that have been made to libraries around. Did you give me that?
No, sir, but it's from Delaney, from Ozark.
From Ozark. I mean, she had spoken, I think, at
She
the
was
last.
supposed to, yes, sir, but I think it just got lost.
And she had asked that the agency establish formal guidelines, plans, and policies to aid in dealing with threats that libraries might receive. And as I understand it, the agency already has policies like that, and disaster preparedness manual that that we prepared apparently years ago, that a lot of libraries have adopted in terms of what procedures, what the best policies are if libraries have threats. So y'all might, if it's the concern there, y'all might check.
I'll pass that message on.
Pass it, and they can see what, if they've adopted that policy.
I'll make sure, yeah.
But there is a policy that
Disaster
the
preparedness.
APLS developed a number of years ago.
A workshop on it, and it has guidelines for writing disaster plans and forms and working with your emergency agency in your local county and city for hurricanes, tornadoes, bomb threats, bomb threats, did we cover threats in libraries?
It's on the Live Guide.
It's on our big guide.
On our website.
So anyway, if you would direct her to that, because I think we've addressed that, because obviously everybody's concerned about the safety of it. All right. Is there any other business?
Has there been any word about reappointment for Bobby Lou's position?
No, I think the governor's office is considering.
Okay, that's going to be one of the other things that come up in a week or two.
Presumably, yeah. All right. Hearing nothing else, do you have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. We thank y'all. We thank everybody for their concern.
Grab my tape recorder. Thank you. Oh. Yeah, I'm